So we have an action item.
We do. Mr. Mercer.
You have linked to the board docket the master agreement, which is here in front of you this morning for approval. Just a couple highlights of the master agreement. We've talked about it along the way. The master agreement had a clause in it that if there was going to be an increase in salary above $1,500, that it would trigger us to reopen the contract. And so over the last couple of months, Mr. Lamb, Mr. Wertz, Dr. Clement, and myself have been working with FCTA, and we have that on the board docket. The increase this year for teachers is $1,628. There were a couple of language adjustments, one being sick day bank. There was an adjustment made on that, and what that's going to involve is everyone, historically what we've had to do is take a day from the sick leave bank, give it back at the end of the year, then take it back the next year, and it just was a nightmare. So what we've done is give teachers the opportunity to opt out of the sick leave bank if they wish. Otherwise, they've got one day placed into it. We'll keep those in the bank until such time as we deplete them, then we'll go back and ask for an additional day. That takes away the back and forth thing. That was one other significant provision that was in there. I don't recall any other particular items. Dr. Clement, you?
Just a few ECAs that the
Yes.
subcommittee worked on that we brought to Brian.
Yeah, a couple ECA adjustments, and of course, our index, I should mention this is significant item. Starting wage went to $37.5. That did impact the index on the ECAs for everybody, and so they all went up just a little bit. But those were the highlights. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if there aren't any, we would ask for your approval of the master agreement.
Okay, does anybody have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, it's been moved to approve. Is there any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Well, this is my first official quarterly board visit here on campus, so thanks for coming. I'm not exactly sure what all you want to hear, and so we've kind of put together just a couple of things that, under Ben and myself, some changes that we've made, some things that we've noticed. When David and Jeff came yesterday, talked about you kind of have to know the past before you can know where we are and where we're going. So I just want to kind of talk about the journey that he and I have taken as a leadership team. And I know that you have lots to do. I will keep this quick, and if you need to pop out or whatever, that's certainly fine. I understand. The end of Steve's journey here, one of the things that they started talking about was a kind of a problem statement of what's causing us the most stress. We picked that up last year and kind of cleaned it up, and we realized that I think the last quarterly board meeting here, we talked about the dissolution of teaming and the double block language arts, which we were excited about, teachers were excited about. There was a lot of data that went into why we made those decisions, but then some of the effects weren't thought about until you live it. So through some of those things, the problem statement really intensified, and student discipline issues were a big problem in our building. It was not the students didn't change, they were the same as the kids the year before and the year before that, but the lack of teaming kind of created some issues that we just weren't really prepared to address, and that's that communication piece. So the problem statement we came up with: student discipline issues beyond classroom walls, student boundaries are loose, there's a lack of connectedness between teachers, interventions, teacher office communication system, and then just a school-wide approach to discipline. This is a teacher committee. We worked together. It was a discipline committee that really turned into something much bigger. We got all the staff kind of involved in
Kiki Popperwell, you have a message in the office. Kiki Popperwell.
Coming up with the direction for the building. There was, when Pam was here, she was here for a very long time, and there was a very clear culture and climate within the building under Pam. And then Steve was here for such a short time, and I was a part of that, but it's just kind of redesigning what is our vision, what is our mission, what is our focus as a building, where's our passion. And those of you who know my story, I've been in middle school or CBIS my entire career, and I have a huge passion for these adolescent individuals who are crazy and confused and disconnected, and they're really trying very hard for the first time to figure out where they fit and how school fits into all of that. And so all of that kind of was part of this conversation too. So these were some of the things. We decided on 3 core values that we really feel like probably all schools, but definitely at the middle level are, if it's going to be a really successful experience for middle schoolers, these are going to be the 3 things that they need while they're here from us. Connection, they need a place to plug in, they need something that they connect to here, whether it's friends, an adult, a club, a sport, an activity. They need still character development. They need expectations, they need clear expectations, and a way for them to be held accountable. And we really saw that between last year and this year. And then growth, academic, personal, social, emotional growth. All of those things are really important to middle school. So we spent second semester of last year and all of summer really developing this. We had whiteboard, we had stuff all over the place. We had lots of different people. We had a student group that came in and talked, and just really figuring out if this is really what we are sold on, if this is what we believe, and we do. So we just this was a couple things, like connection. It's more than just one-to-one. It's more than just athletics. There's just so many different ways for students to connect, and all of our students need to connect. We have an amazing band and choir program here. I know that you guys are aware of that, something that we're really proud of. Character, we're going to talk just quickly about some of the character pieces that we've implemented this year. These are some pictures from last year. But this is really where we spent our time this year. We realized that to focus on all 3 and really dive into all 3 areas was going to not do service to any one area well. So this year, because school discipline and that frustration was real, and the issues were real, this is where we decided to focus for this school year on our character system. And within that character system is character development, but also accountability, student accountability. And that was really kind of loose. And so that was some of the things that we focused on. So we have, this is very small, but we have implemented a change to our GRIS time. You guys probably are familiar with that term. It was where we did our enrichment and remediation. It lost a lot of structure and turned into a glorified study hall of sorts for many kids. We had some really great enrichment activities going on, but we really needed to tighten up how much we were holding kids accountable to all kids to growth academically. So we moved GRIS to the beginning of the day, call it focus, and we've implemented within that also a character piece and a connection piece where we have teachers with a small group that they are going to have every morning all year long. So kind of a mentor relationship of sorts as well. And it's also a student that they will have later in the day in one of their classes. And we have Monday morning meetings. It kind of goes back to that Make Mondays Great and Celebrate Mondays. We have a school-wide message that we send out every Monday morning. This month it was about college and career. In October we're going to talk about school safety with them every day. So there's a message. And when we need to remind kids of our expectations and our standards of behavior that we've established that maybe are starting to wane a little bit, that's where we do it. So it's the same teacher giving the same message all year long. So we have Monday morning meetings that we started as part of that character development, and then we also started an office referral system and a behavior log that I don't know that they've had before at the middle school. I know they had it, some sort of system, but a lot of it was within teams. And so we have a school-wide, and this has been, when we ask teachers for their input about where are we now, this is the thing that was mentioned over and over again. The school discipline system has been hugely successful. It's easy. Kids understand the expectations, and it's consistent and it's followed through, and they know, and we talk about it, and they carry around. It's more than just a behavior log. They carry around what we call their playbook, and inside of the playbook we have our VBO, our values and stuff on the front. It's got their behavior log in it. We also have goal setting sheets that we've put in. NWBA goals are part of this, and we have a list of all of our standards of behavior. Instead of rules, we kind of changed that term to these are the expectations and standards. So, and then we also have a positive piece that goes in the front that I'll talk about here in just a second. But this has been huge. They carry them in the hallways. If I'm not your teacher, I can still hold you accountable to not, goofing off in the hallway and not pushing, not shoving, not doing those things. And I don't have to have you in class to be able to hold you accountable. The other huge piece is if I have you in social studies and Mr. Carroll has you in math, I don't know what's going on in his room. There's not a cohesive time where we get to talk every day. So I get to see if those behaviors are consistent across the building. If I'm the only one having a problem, or my class is the only class that you're having a problem in, That's a different conversation maybe than if there's stuff all over the building. It's also really helped with interventions. And Jenny Pieper, who was in here before, has taken the role of dean and transformed it. A lot of the trauma-informed care that we are hearing about and really having relationships be a piece of student discipline is so important right now. But she's able to pull this up and see, and every time that a kid gets a consequence, she calls them down and she meets with them, and they bring their playbook and she talks through, and we make decisions about how to move forward. And we get to the end of this, because you know what, kids mess up repeatedly and they end up filling this up. We have an individual plan for the kid moving forward. So it's not a one size fits all, you get to this and you're gonna be kicked out of school. But that was one of the things we found. We got kids that we were just pulling our hair out. We had no data on them, we had no idea what was really going on. We have our behavior interventionist as part of this, our guidance counselors are a part of this, Ben and I are a part of this, Jenny's a huge part of this, teachers are a part of this, and they're checking this in their focus classes Monday mornings. Every Monday morning kids pull this out, their teachers checking in. So it's been so huge, so important, so big for our building moving forward.
But she's so right, it does work. 2 incidences. One young man, one of the other teachers came into my room and said, I need to see Taj's playbook. And I said, okay, and I noticed he'd already gotten in trouble 3 times that morning, and it was all in the hallway. So for that one day, we adjusted his plan, and he wasn't allowed to be in the hallway on his own. For one day, he got it. And the second one was just the idea that it might be signed is enough for some of them. We're in our reading groups, and these 2 boys just back and forth, bicker. I said, can you just go get your playbooks for me? I just want to hold on to those in case I need those. All of a sudden they could read together. It was amazing.
But she's right, and they're so small, those consequences, so small, but it means something to some of those kids who just need that reminder, and the small adds up to big, and we don't lose sight of that. We have a positive system as well. Each teacher has a stamp that's a Facebook-like symbol that they can give kids for just doing the right thing. They check these, and all sorts of different reasons, and when they get these filled in, they take them, they turn them in, they get a little piece of candy, but then they get entered in as like bucks. So it's PBIS basically, and they're going to be able to shop with those. So we want to recognize positive as well. And then the other thing that's been huge this year is that this office referrals. This is just a screenshot, and you really can't see anything, but all teachers have access to it, and it's basically a very easy way to communicate with the office. If there's something beyond this, it's also their way of communicating when a kid gets to the different levels that we've identified that they need intervention. And it's a very quick, very easy. They can also refer kids to the guidance office, and they can also refer to the behavior interventionist. So this right here has been our focus this year. It's been well received. The interesting thing for me is how well received it has been by the kids. The 8th graders who were here last year and had very little structure, they needed this. I was expecting kids are gonna just, what? We're not babies. I can't believe you're making us do this. And they have needed it. They've wanted it, and it's been hugely successful. We changed our cell phone policy, and I was expecting riots. We've had nothing. Again, I think for middle school, they've needed that and they've wanted that, and so that's been really positive. Did you want to add anything?
We posted our standards of behavior throughout the building. We try to really clarify our expectations, because if we're going to hold you accountable to something, we want you to know what it is. I just feel like we're being very intentional and systematic, and we're trying to do things that will sustain when we start them, and that's kind of why we just focus on character, and then when we get to second semester, we'll look at what's for next year.
What is the new cell phone policy?
They are not allowed to have them during the day at all, off and out of sight. So having it, we wanted to also be sensitive to parents who have that kind of, what if something happens and they need their cell phone in the middle of the day and there's an emergency. So what we've just said basically is off and out of sight. So if they have them in their Chromebook case or in their Trapper Keeper and they're off and out of sight, it's fine. But they don't have, from bell to bell, essentially, they don't have their cell phones. They don't have them at lunch. That was the biggest thing I thought for sure we were going to have. Can we just? And really, it's been louder in the cafeteria with them not having their cell phones. But it's so nice to see them interact and be social with one another. So it's been a really positive, I think, on all accounts. There's also been significantly less cell phone
And
drama,
social
social
media
media
things that
stuff,
make their way into the
texting during the
office.
day. That's still happening, it's happening outside of school though, and so there's no place for that here. Middle schoolers don't know how to regulate so much of those social emotional pieces. Adding that into school was just.
Some adults too.
Some adults. I agree.
So just real quick, so do we need to modify the cell phone policy to take this and put it into to words into our procedures?
Both schools, middle school and high school, did that. Steve actually, at his level, just followed the policy. And they added to theirs, so we have.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would agree, talking to both principals, it's been great. And having kids live through it, I can tell you, I don't hear one peep about it at all. I heard it for the first moment when like, Dad, what are you guys doing? Probably, but other than that, it's been very good, so yeah.
Yeah, teachers still use them, sometimes in classrooms.
We have a
They're
symbol.
Science labs or different things that they're doing. But we have had pretty much zero issues.
Zero. So knock on wood, I know it's
Yeah,
only
should have said.
late September, but yeah, it's been really good. Any other questions about this piece? Growth, this was again just like a few things that symbolize some of the growth. We were really excited for the first time we had a lot of middle school teachers apply for various grants, and that was big. That was really, really big. And several awarded the 10X grants and then additional the Ed Foundation grants. So that was really a positive celebration as we moved through last year and then into this year as well. Just another thing I'd like to highlight, if any of you want to stay around and we can go walk around a little bit, one of the symbols of kind of welcoming and cultural symbols is the pineapple, like welcome to my home. I think it's a very like Hawaiian symbol. I know they use it as just welcoming into homes. You can see it's becoming very popular home decor as well. But we started this at the beginning of last year as an invitation into the classroom. Not that you would ever exclude someone from your classroom, but if you have something going on, if you want, and we wanted to encourage teachers getting into each other's classrooms. In addition to that, we had a pineapple board that was physical. This year it's an electronic board, but if you're doing something that people might want to see, if you're trying a new strategy, or if you're doing a cool lab, or if you're just doing something and someone might want to come watch you, then you can fill out the pineapple board. We encourage at different times of the year everybody to either put your name on the board or go see somebody just to encourage that popping around. So as we go around today, I did tell people if you are doing a test or something today, make sure to take down your pineapple so that we don't barge in on you guys taking a test. But so that's kind of a cool thing that we've done as well. And then I wanted to give Ann just real quick, this has been a huge addition to our building, and I'm so thankful that we've made instructional coaching and that we did it the way that we did, and that we all went out and got trained together, and that we were all speaking the same language. But I just want to give her a minute or two to talk about her transition here to our building and to the middle school and some of the things that she's doing.
I talked a little bit in front of the board a couple weeks ago about the role of coach, and the big word is impact. And the 3 words that coaches are really living by is that we identify, we learn, and we improve. And it's a cycle, and we keep doing it over and over again. And it's really powerful to be working with other coaches and collaborating as coaches, coming up with ideas and suggestions. But I want to give you an idea of what I do here at the middle school. And I just looked at my roster today, my calendar today. After this presentation, I go to relieve 2 teachers, Leanne and Shannon, to come out and talk about what they're doing to make an impact in the school. Second period, I go to an English language arts class to give a teacher a chance to watch a webinar that I am encouraging them to watch to organize a 90-minute block. So I'm taking over his class. Third and fourth period, I'm deep coaching 2 teachers. Fifth period, I'm looking at data and helping the social studies group work with their PLCs and try to get their curriculum mapped out. Seventh period, I'm working with Michelle Giles, looking at NWEA data and seeing what she can do to help set goals and make some decisions. And 8th period, I'm working with Joe Lizelle to work with how you would write a cross-curriculum. She's a new social studies teacher, she taught math, she's very excited about the change. That's my day. And the beauty of it is, I think we can make an impact as coaches, and we're flexible. You go to a teacher and say, do you need time? I will take your class, instead of them trying to fit it in after school. Also, the power of late arrival on Wednesdays is just amazing, because it is giving teachers that time to really collaborate and really work together. And I truly believe we will be making big differences, and they are going to be amazing. So, thanks for the opportunity.
She's been phenomenal here in this building. The ability to jump in and take very veteran staff, and I was a little nervous about how her services would be received in our building by teachers other than our new staff, and they have, I mean, you have lots of our veteran staff that have reached out
Yes.
and really asked
One
questions.
teacher, well, like 2 teachers I'm coaching are veteran teachers. It's amazing. They just come, and we're a team. I'm not telling, they're the experts. They are the experts. I'm just there to help and to be a sounding board sometimes. One time a teacher's just talking and she says, I'm figuring it out. And I'm like, that's awesome. You know, it's all different ways to work with them.
So it's been great.
So valuable.
I'm loving it.
We did a little shout out about some of the things that teachers are really excited about in our building. The discipline system, our above the line positive behavior, counseling groups, band, choir, we have a great Cup to Grizzlies program and this was really done in like one quick little survey that I sent out and asked kind of what's going on right now. So I think teachers are excited about the changes. We've had a really good response. She mentioned PLC, Wednesday morning, the late arrival. I can get into PLCs. Like before, we had to supervise 800 kids, and I can go around, and Ben can go around, Jenny goes around, Ann goes, and we are in the PLC groups, and it's really changed the level of expectation across the board on what it is that we want from them, what it is that we need from them, what it is that our students really need from those PLC groups, and that word intentional, being really intentional about that PLC time. It's been wonderful. And then the last thing that I was just going to say was we have a change to our Grizz time, our focus time. We have students that are using a program called MyPath. We've been looking for a program here. It's not perfect. I tell you what, our 8th graders do not like it, because last year they had this free time and they were, not, and so now they're having to work. But I really feel like the intentional remediation or enrichment, depending on where they are, all students have the ability to grow. And I know that some of our top end students, they learn well in class, they learn well in our structured environment, but intentionally targeting where they are and being linked to NWEA, I think is going to prove to be very positive as well, once we can kind of figure out how to motivate our kids through that online, process. So, and that's really what they're doing right now. So we can take a tour around the building. I do want to show you, if you can have just a few minutes, our Project Lead the Way, our STEM class within our digital citizenship class this year. They have a couple things that they're really excited to share with you, and it's just right up the hall. Other than that, everyone right now is in their focus class, and so it's MyPath, so there's not a lot to see until about 8:40. So you're welcome to stick around, and we can go around, pop into some classrooms. Definitely, as we're walking through the artwork on the wall, that was something that students did over the last couple years. So if you're able to take a look at that, that's something else that we're really excited about and really proud of. Bev Wilson, our 7th grade art teacher, really took over a creativity club. And that's all student driven. We have this beautiful mural, the one that I started with, down our guidance hallway. We have this butterfly, that one of those interactive where you stand in front of it and take pictures. But this was all done by Bev Wilson and her creativity club, and it's a huge wall mural, and they're all over the building. We have different ones. There's one that goes into the gymnasium, and it talks about just being a good kid and really focusing on how you are to others. And our Sage kids last year all put their handprints and signed them, and that was kind of cool. So we've just got this kind of stuff everywhere. So taking a look at that as you walk through the building, and recognizing that it's all student done, which is really cool.
Any questions or?
I guess the only question I've got is and I love the structure that you're putting in, what you said about the 8th graders. Are you working with Mr. A-House on giving them that structure when they get over to 9th grade?
I don't know. He and I have talked about what we've done. You know, high school is very different than middle school, and I feel like he and I saw that when we worked together. I came from 6th grade and he came from high school, and we kind of met in the middle, and that really taught me a lot. So I don't know if I'm working with him on what they can do over there differently, but we are definitely, there's so much conversation going both directions, CBIS and the high school. Maybe more so now than ever before, just because of those connections. And so I think that there are really important conversations that are definitely happening.
Talk a little about Monica's program, where she does help kids transition to the high school.
So she has it's called Cubs to Grizzlies, and she works with one of the teachers at the high school, and she's been going over that. They identify high school kids that are juniors and serve as peer mentors for a group of our maybe more at-risk 8th graders. And they come over and they learn at the high school skills to be a peer mentor and to develop relationships and to form relationships with these kids at the 8th grade level, so that when they go over to the high school, we're not only building those skills while they're here, they're going to have a connection. They're going to have a connection when they get over to the high school as freshmen with an upperclassman. And it's been hugely successful. It's very skill-based, and they don't serve as counselors, they just serve as peer mentors. So this is year, I think 3, that she's done it, something that Monica's very passionate about, and also very good at.
Next school board meeting, you guys are approving an overnight field trip to the FFA Center, and they do team building and different activities with the kids there as well, so that's one thing that's coming up for you all. This is I think this is year 3 they've done the FFA. One more thing, how about the National Anthem program? That's unique to what you do.
Yeah, and that was one of the things actually that was on the shout outs. Jim Toole just does a phenomenal job with encouraging kids to take part in something that maybe they never thought that they could or never knew that they were interested in. It's amazing to watch him, even in the classroom, and his connection with those 160, whatever it is, band members that he works with every year. But he does identify some of these students that have some true musical gift, and he's got this, the National Anthem Project, where these kids learn and then go around and they've performed at various sporting events, Pacer game. I don't know my athletic teams very well, not a real, but lots of it. I know they've been at the Indians game. This is something they know about me. The Indians game, they've done the, what's the female NBA? Fever. They've played there, and so he takes them around, and it just gives them an experience. When I talk about connection with the middle schoolers, one of the things that I talk about with them is that, what is it that you're going to remember about middle school? You know, we'd love it if you say you remember like that math lesson that was just really good, but that's probably not going to be the thing that you remember when you leave here. And so that National Anthem, those kids are going to remember that. They're going to remember that experience, that they were able to do that. In addition to things like the 8th grade dance, I try to encourage kids to get involved and do things like that, because that's what I remember when I was in 8th grade. I remember some of those big events and the people and the connections with the people. So, yeah,
Thank you.
It's awesome.
So we had the opportunity, you saw a few pictures this summer, to go to Purdue, and it was a week-long, very intense course just to learn some of the activities that they'll be doing. And so those were just a few of the pictures where we had the opportunity to build and learn how to code and so forth.
I would have to say I got, pretty good knowledge from just going through this process, because I don't have too much knowledge when it comes to using the VEX builder, stuff like that. So I felt like, just going through that week-long training was, it was a little overwhelming, but I greatly enjoyed it, and I know Leanne enjoyed it. And so we're excited to show the students, all the stuff that we've learned and apply the skills what little skills that I feel, we got a lot of skills, but it was just a lot to absorb, all at once. But to go ahead and, demonstrate to the students and hopefully apply those skills as well when they start using the VEX builders. Currently, I've been having my 8th graders go through the curriculum already since the beginning, about the 2nd week since school started. And we're just now getting into the building process with the VEX builders, and so we'd like to go ahead and show you guys where those are stored. We do have maybe one student example that's been started so far, but you can take a look at that. They're still becoming more familiar with, they start off learning the importance of
Engineering.
Right, yeah, the
STEM.
engineering process, we talk about the design process. And then now they're going to be learning about the basic structures, mechanisms that they can build with the VEX builders.
What's the decision-making plan? What's that called that you guys learned?
Decision-making matrix.
Yes, and you teach the kids that?
Mm-hmm.
And what is that? What's entailed in that decision-making process?
Well, basically, students start off with a project and they generate multiple ideas, multiple designs that they'll sketch in one of their designing notebooks. And so then they'll be working with another student and they kind of collect all of their designs and they put it in this table where they kind of list their criteria. So the things that they're really wanting to look for their end result of the design. So then they go through and they number or they rank each criteria for each of the design to see which one would be the best option for what it is that they're wanting to end up building. So
It's exciting, and even just having, we've had the kids help some, unpack a few things here and there, and the excitement.
Nice building.
Yes, it's definitely building. Seventh graders are excited. We've started talking about engineering, which really works well with the career, talking about careers in college.
All seventh and eighth graders are taking the first year class this year, and then the plan is for eighth graders to take the second level class next year.
So we have a digital citizenship class, which is what we built this into, and it started out for 7th grade as a required course for everyone, and we talk about internet safety and some of those important, especially with the Chromebooks. This was at that point the first year that they were taking them home, and so just really some of those skills in addition to keyboarding as an essential skill. So and then 8th grade kind of went on a little bit further and did some coding and stuff last year, correct? And then that's why we built this into this class. So all 7th graders will have access to Project Lead the Way, and then those who opt as an 8th grader to take it a second year, they'll get an experience with that.
Right. And the reason why we're housed down here instead of our regular classroom upstairs is because with this program they are going to be coding and building at the same time. So this classroom was most ideal where they also have the desktop computers where they can do their coding at, but if they need to adjust anything, modify anything with their builds, they still have areas to go to as well to do that. So
We'll show you our storage area.
we try to make this as easy as possible for the students to find whatever it is that they need because there are a lot of pieces. So we've labeled each cabinet with different categories of their tools. So for the plastic supplies, these are mainly going to be the gears and sprockets, also little plastic pieces that they'll use, like we have chains and wheels and stuff. So eventually they'll be building upon those in their ultimate projects, their mechanisms that they're building, or some examples of what they can build. A really popular one are cars, so they can have races with one another, a competitive kind of project. What were some of the other ones that we used?
Pool toys.
Okay, pool toys.
Trying to think, they also.
So they have liberty to choose what they want.
Starting off they do, but then we kind of have some options that we can ultimately have the students do. So they do have a few options. It's been a while since training, but they were building upon that. I think it was in like this lesson 2 where we had a situation. Do you remember how that went?
No. Getting all of my memories.
But there were
fading.
probably about 5 different projects that they could pick one from and then try to use higher level thinking skills to like get around the problem or to fix the problem, that kind of thing. But one of the very last activities they got to kind of pick from had various levels. One was create a traffic light, which I got to build during training. What was yours?
I think a lift, Granny needed to get upstairs.
Right, so
I had
they
to
built
build a
like
lift
a,
to get her upstairs.
yeah.
In a rocking chair.
Yeah, and then the higher level ones was, I believe, an elevator, right?
Yes.
A working elevator, so that one was pretty cool. And then at the very end project was an assembly line to build a particular kind of block. And so each pair of partners had to create one part of the assembly line. And so then when we put it all together, we got to run it through, and it was pretty cool to see, so.
We got to have our light, we had to have 4 stops in my portion of it, and so we got to put lights on and show that that a block had gone by, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah. And this one, we have all of our metal pieces, which
They're heavy.
very, very heavy, but there's a lot of similar pieces, so we're still in the process of labeling everything so that the kids could easily find what they're looking for, but they'll be able to see pictures on the outside as well as the name, because we want them to continue to have exposure to the parts, learn the name of the parts. So when they actually when they continue to build with their partner, it'll be a whole lot more efficient to collect whatever it is that they need for their project. And then here we have items for when they get into using the motors. So we have the various pieces that they'll use to start their projects. We have the Cortexes here, which will do a lot of the programming and cords and stuff like that.
So when you say programming,
They're using what is called a C language program called Robot C. So I would say it's one of the more, I guess, basic text coding programs. And
More complicated than the block, which was more like what we did last year.
yeah,
But,
so this will be a new experience for them using the text coding. So that will probably take a few weeks of practice and learning before they get to that point in using the motors.
But I've already heard talk, a lot of the kids do have some experience with, maybe not the C language, but very similar. And they're excited about it. So.
When you guys talk about the building in the curriculum, and that, do you guys cover safety? You know, thinking about the safety aspect of, so from a manufacturing world, that's a big, when you think of that assembly line,
Right.
Absolutely.
if they're the engineers and they're thinking that safety aspect along with it, right?
Right,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
they have a curriculum, they like to, in the curriculum, within the curriculum, they have a lot of different PowerPoint presentations and stuff that helps build or scaffold students' knowledge for, this topic. So here in a couple of days, we're gonna talk about robots, the importance of robots, where we see them in the real world. And then also, how technology influences, our everyday lives, stuff like that. So, yeah, we'll be talking about safety here.
And through the design process too, there's a lot of conversations that will go on. The
Okay.
design process, is this safe and so
Sure.
forth. And we have batteries and charging stations, and so that'll be one thing we'll have to talk to them about.
Good. Yeah, if we can start getting them to think about it now.
Oh, absolutely.
That's great advantage. Nice job.
I think differently already, just
Yeah.
going through the training, I'm not really a STEM kind of person, I'm creative, but not scientifically, and so, it's been an adventure. Now I look at doors and I think, how does that work? And could I fix it?